Good morning. We begin our time together this morning in song with the song May Nothing Evil Cross This Door by Louis Untermeyer and Robert Quayle. Please make sure your microphone is muted and let us sing as energetically as we can to welcome this beautiful fall morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Gwinnett. My name is Jan Taddeo. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am so glad we can all be together this morning. Welcome, welcome. It is such a great joy and privilege to serve our faith as the minister of this congregation, and always good to be together in any way we can be. If you have a chalice at home and you want to light that with us in a few minutes, make sure you have that ready with match and wick. And now I offer our words of welcome. We arrive here from many places and many life experiences, and a rather interesting week as we gather to recall our true selves, reflect on the meaning of our lives, and explore questions of ultimacy together. If you are here for the first time or the 1000th time, you are welcome here. If you believe in many gods, a god, a goddess, no god, you just aren't sure, you are welcome here. If you are gay, straight, bisexual, asexual, pansexual, transgender, cisgender, or still trying to figure it out, you are welcome here. If you are covered in tattoos or are a blank slate, you are welcome here. If you shout amen after each song or sentence, or if you prefer to sit with us quietly, you are welcome here. If you arrive here sober, addicted, or somewhere on your healing path, you are welcome here. If you are grieving or if you are celebrating, you are welcome here. Your whole self, all that you were, all that you are, all that you long to be, is welcome here. And you are right where you should be, in a room full of compassionate, thoughtful, Unitarian Universalists ready to meet you where you are. If you are a newcomer this morning, we welcome you and hope you will find your spiritual home here with us. We are becoming a radically welcoming congregation in a green space. We foster spiritual growth as we joyfully nurture connections and community within our walls and beyond. If this is your first time here with us, I encourage you to join us several times to get the full flavor of this faith tradition and this congregation, and to please join us in person when we are able to safely return to worshiping together on Sunday mornings. Come and be curious, courageous, and compassionate with us. And now let us take a big, deep breath. And maybe another to bring ourselves fully into this precious, cherished time that we have set aside to be together. As the sound of this bell vibrates through us and around us, let that vibration remind us how deeply, inextricably interconnected and interdependent we are on one another, with all of the beings and life on this planet, and with all the stars in the cosmos. We are one. This morning, we light our congregation's ceremonial candle in celebration as we welcome a new child into our congregation. Cora Rachel Schneider came into the world and into our community on October 28th. We offer congratulations to Elle and Kevin Schneider, Cora's parents, and to Cora's sibling Parker. All are doing well. Our opening words are from the Reverend Teresa I. Soto, A Simple Hope. Last year, the IT toy was some kind of computerized egg, the frenzy and desperation reaching for the perfect gift, sold out everywhere, this egg. Hope can be kind of like that. People strain and struggle for the perfect definition. Is it now? Or future perfect, as in, we will have survived. They argue over whether we even need a hope more present than a maybe, even when you don't feel it. A healthy hope is the power, and beyond that, the choosing to stay. Stay with the doubt and fear. Stay with the work that it takes to resist. Leave giving up for another day. You could wrestle the words or sensation of hope to the mat, or you could let this moment be enough. Belonging here together be sufficient. Feast on our irrepressible power to stay. And now get your chalices ready to light as Bob Patrick offers our chalice lighting words.
Our chalice lighting words come from the Reverend Kathleen McTeague. Here in the refuge of this Sabbath home, we turn our busy minds toward silence and our full hearts toward one another. We move together through the mysteries, the bright surprise of birth, and the shadowed questions of death. In our slow walk between the two, we will be wounded, and we will be showered with grace, amazing and unending. Even in our sorrows, we feel our lives cradled in holiness. We cannot comprehend. And though we each walk within a vast loneliness, the promise we offer here is that we will not walk alone. This is a holy place in which we gather, the light of the earth brought in and held, touched then by our answering light. The flame on a chalice, the flicker of a candle, the lamps of our open faces brought near. In this place of silence and celebration, solemnity and music, we make a sanctuary and name our home. In this home, we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will toward justice. In this home, we bring the courage to walk on after hard losses. Into this home, we bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings. By our gathering, we bless this place. In its shelter, we know ourselves blessed.
Thank you, Bob. And now it's time for us to open our Wonder Box. Are you curious? If you're a Unitarian Universalist, you're curious. Wow, it's like magic inside this box. Let's see what we got. Okay. There's a house. It's kind of a small house. Oh, look. There's little small fairies here. Maybe they live in this house. Yeah, there we go. Fairies. I love fairies. This is a part of a beautiful set of a little village, fairy village that I have on my porch. And I have a story about a house, maybe something like this, but a little bigger. And this is a story written by John Lewis, and I believe it is a true story, but I don't know that for sure. It's called Walking with the Wind. About 15 of us children were outside my Aunt Saniva's house, playing in her dirt yard. The sky began clouding over. The wind started picking up. Lightning flashed far off in the distance. And suddenly, I wasn't thinking about playing anymore. I was terrified. Aunt Saniva was the only adult around, and as the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, she herded us all inside. Her house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with so many children squeezed inside. Small and surprisingly quiet. All of the shouting and laughter that had been going on earlier outside had stopped. The wind was howling now, and the house was starting to shake. We were scared. Even Aunt Saniva was scared. And then it got worse. Now the house was beginning to sway. The wood plank flooring beneath us began to bend. And then a corner of the room started lifting up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. None of us could. This storm was actually pulling the house toward the sky with us inside it. That was when Aunt Saniva told us to clasp hands. Line up and hold hands, she said, and we did as we were told. Then she had us walk as a group toward the corner of the room that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house we walked, the wind screaming outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof. Then we walked back in the other direction as another end of the house began to lift. And so it went, back and forth, 15 children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. More than half a century has passed since that day, and it has struck me more than once over those many years that our society is not unlike the children in that house, rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they might fly apart. It seemed that way in the 1960s at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt as if it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed. They came together and they did the best they could, clasping hands and moving toward the corner of the house that was the weakest. And then another corner would lift and we would go there. And eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle and the house would still stand. But we knew another storm would come and we would have to do it all over again. And we did. And we still do. All of us, you and I, children holding hands, walking with the wind. Let us sing Building a New Way by Martha Sandifer.
Good morning. These days, in more and more of our online gatherings at UUCG, we ask each other this question: how is it with your soul? My observation is that when we ask each other that question, there's no simple answer. It might immediately strike us as exactly what we needed to be asked. There's so much going on inside of us: thoughts, feelings, images, and they too often contradict each other. How often do we find ourselves focused on something like compassion and almost in the same instant are overwhelmed with rage or hatred? Where do those things come from? And that question, how is it with your soul, just might bring us to utter silence. I have no idea how it is with my soul. I have no words. Words fail. Such are the times we are living through right now. Many of us in our community have come to love and appreciate the work of Parker Palmer. Recently, Reverend Jan shared with me some work from his new book, Healing the Heart of Democracy: The Courage to Create a Politics Worthy of the Human Spirit. In that work, Palmer shares what he calls 5 habits of the heart that make democracy possible. I'm not going to give you a book report this morning on his work, though Christiana has made the PDF of his 5 habits available on our website, and I think she's going to post it here in the chat as well. And I strongly recommend it as a reading, a short reading to reflect on. Instead, this morning, I want to invite us to imagine together for a few minutes. I think it's fair to say, in this beloved community of ours, democracy is important to us. The process of democracy, ensuring that every voice is heard, that all voices are represented. And we make mistakes at times. We fail at times. I also think that it's safe to say that we all find ourselves living in a time where we have serious doubts and all those mixed feelings about the state of American democracy. So let's imagine for a few minutes. First, what if we imagined that we are all truly in this together? I see that suggestion on yard signs in my neighborhood, and it makes me wonder. I live in a fairly affluent neighborhood. Most, not all, of my neighbors are white. As a white man, I wonder what it means to really imagine us all being in this together, including people of color who are more at risk as a group for the virus, including those whose economic situation is not as stable as those in my neighborhood. Imagining us all being in this together, this democracy together, pushes me to wonder what things, what movements, what legislation, and what causes I need to support that may not be about me at all, but may be in support of others whose names I don't even know. So, how is it with your soul? And what if we imagined a true appreciation of otherness, speaking of others? Imagining ourselves truly appreciating otherness, I think, is a real challenge. I think this for two reasons. First, all through my life, up to this moment, I can experience a creepy dynamic where I find myself viewing someone as the other. It's a momentary realization that I am looking at someone in a way that feels like total disconnection, even as a judgment, that there could be no connection between me and them. A whole series of feelings and thoughts cascade down inside of me. Where did this come from? Who taught me to think this way? How did I arrive as the judge of the other? And if I see you as other, doesn't that make me other too? Second, I'm reading a powerful book right now called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Israeli researcher and author Yuval Noah Harari. He points to research that indicates a blessing curse in Homo sapiens. Language distinguishes us. We use language primarily as a creator of community and for survival. We teach each other through language, which allows us to advance as a species. But there's a downside. We also use language to extend to each other suspicions about those who seem, for whatever reason, to be different. Imagining that we can appreciate otherness takes our ability to socialize with each other positively to a different level on behalf of the other. So, how is it with your soul? What if we imagined holding tension as a life giver and not a life drainer? It is now our daily affair to hear ourselves and others say, I'm exhausted. And we could explore the causes of our exhaustion, and no doubt our experiences would be many. Tension as a life drainer, I suspect, would have a role in all of our stories. The political, economic, social, and pandemic turmoil has largely created tensions that none of us are accustomed to holding on a daily basis. In each of those venues, it is felt, too, like there's no end in sight. I've been very grateful for my own encounters over the years with mindfulness training, and Reverend Jan has taught us a powerful form of it called tunglen. When I try to imagine holding tension as a life giver rather than a life drainer, that's where I go. I go to this place right here, where I am, breathing my breaths in and out. And once I can find that rhythm that is now inside of me, I recall that there are others out there facing these same tensions as well as different tensions. And I hold them in my breathing in of tension and exhaustion, and I hold them in breathing out peace and creativity. What would it be like if we approached tensions as an opportunity to create rather than something that defeats us? How is it with your soul? And finally, what if we imagined having a personal voice and personal power? Many years ago, when I was 28 or 29, we were facing a presidential election after the 2 terms of Ronald Reagan. Some of his policies had been devastating to the poorest and the oldest members of the small community in North Alabama that we worked and lived in. I was excited about the opportunity to vote, to be a force for change, to choose leadership that would value the most vulnerable in our communities. I remember standing with my jaw hanging open in more than a few conversations in that community with people who told me that they would not vote because my vote makes no difference. They had come to hold that imagination as a fact. Nothing would and nothing did change their minds. Many of them were the very people who had been so harmed by the national policies up until then. So speed ahead to 2020. I feel like here in this community and beyond our community, I'm seeing people use this sort of imagination that we have voices, that we have personal power. We vote, we march, we write, we call, we speak, we contribute, and we do it because the vulnerable in our world are still not valued. What if imagining our own voices and our own personal power become the seed of imagination for someone else, that they might discover their voices too, their personal power too? So, how is it with your soul?
That's lovely. Thank you, Bob, for your reflections on healing the heart of democracy and the 5 habits of the heart that we want to cultivate. And I'm going to read the last section of Bob's reflection, the 5th habit of the heart. What if we imagine having the power to create community? Imagine finding a group of people who share some common visions for the world. Imagine finding people who value the dignity and worth of all human beings, even those whom we might have been taught to think of as other. Imagine finding a group of people who work for justice, equity, and compassion together. Imagine finding a group of people who accept and encourage one another on their life's journey. Imagine finding a group of people who boldly search for truth and meaning in life. Imagine finding a group of people who, despite all that we are living through, believe in the power of the human conscience and the democratic process. Imagine finding a group of people who see the world as growing into a community of peace, justice, and freedom. Imagine finding a group of people who dare to think that all things in this world, in this galaxy, in the cosmos, are interdependent, that no one is alone, that no thing is left out. Imagine. We can imagine, can't we? I know we have so much that challenges us today, next week, next year, and in the years to come, but we are a community who find each other and welcome each other in. We are a community willing to expand that circle. We have practicing some of these habits that Palmer names. Let us keep returning to our breath, to the present moment, to our imagination, to our principles and practices, to each other, and to the other whom we have not welcomed yet, and practice this faith of ours. We know how to imagine and bring what we create there into reality. So, how is it with your soul? How is it with the soul of America? Our presumed president-elect has said that he will work to heal the soul of America. That's a tall order. I have a different question about our United States. We have this Pledge of Allegiance that would be a topic for another conversation about that Pledge of Allegiance, but part of it says one nation, indivisible. And I wonder, how can we be indivisible if we've never truly been united? Because I'm not sure that America's ever been united. If you look at the history of our country, the real history, the people's history, we see that this country has been built on tremendous division and war and slavery and genocide and conquering this country. What is it that our troops, our veterans defend, protect, fight for? How can we possibly put 300 million people into 2 boxes? A red box, a blue box, and maybe there's a 3rd box that's purple. I don't know, but still, it's a lot of people to put in these little boxes in our political system. And there's very few bridges between these boxes, if any. We are a very divided nation. What if we imagined having the power to create beloved community beyond our walls? What if we imagined, we, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Gwinnett, imagined having the power to create beloved community beyond our walls, the power to alleviate suffering, the power to build bridges, the power to nurture connection and community? Well, we do have that power. We live it in many ways. And now we're in this really strange time where we're using that power in diverse ways rather than united ways, because we're not together. We're in person together, working side by side very much. A little bit when we work on our grounds, which is great. There's a tension in life now that Bob named so well in that reflection. We are trying to live in a way that we've never been designed to live in. We are social people. It's a tension that is exhausting. And I don't really see where the end is yet. I know there is an end. I trust that this pandemic will get controlled. We will get to a place where we are together again. I don't think it will be January. And in our town hall meeting on November 22nd, we'll talk about how much further might we need to extend our virtual life here as a congregation. But what if this tension were life-giving and creative and was holding us together? Because tension is needed to hold things together. And what I would pose is the question for us is, what is the work that needs us to do it? We Unitarian Universalists, we the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Gwinnett, what is the work that needs us to do it, and to do it in a really concerted, all here together way? There's an example of how Unitarian Universalists really have come together recently. We had a major national effort called the Vote to get people to the polls. It was a nonpartisan effort. And just to give you a little bit of information about that, there was a letter from Reverend Susan Frederick Gray this week, the president of the UUA, went out to all leaders of congregations. It was on Thursday, before we had a better idea of who our next president would be. But one thing that she says is that as Unitarian Universalists, democracy is a core value and practice of our tradition. We have a long tradition of town hall meetings that actually took in the larger community, not just the congregation back in New England in our early days. We have a long tradition of wanting everyone to be able to express their ideas, to be part of finding our way forward. Every voice matters, every vote matters. More than 4,500 Unitarian Universalists from over 800 congregations participated in the the Vote campaign. Through postcards, letters, phone calls, and texts, we contacted over 2.79 million voters across the country. And the Vote was more than a get out the vote effort. It was envisioned as a strategic campaign to help us build more muscle for partnership, for courage, for relationships with our neighbors, and for articulating and embodying our values. It was focused to strengthen partnerships with organizations and efforts led by Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and by directly impacted communities. So it was a partnership building effort rooted in a vision of building power and capacity for a more just, sustainable, and equitable world. And Nicole Presley, the Vote national organizer, said, "We need to remember that we already have all that we need. We are the people who show up, time and time again. We are resilient and we are ready. I am so grateful to the people in this congregation who took part in UU the Vote, Chuck Powell for his leadership efforts in getting that work done here in Georgia. So what is the work that needs us to do it? We are really focused right now as we work on our budget for 2021 and our annual vision of ministry. We are focused on bringing people in and getting the word out that Unitarian Universalism is alive and strong in Gwinnett County, and all are welcome here. All are welcome here. But it's not enough to just bring people in or to let them know we're here. We have to make our home strong to withstand the storms. And beloveds, I know that many of us feel really good about where we're heading now into the next year politically. Maybe not everyone feels good about that. I don't know how all of you voted, but I know many are pleased. But there are people in this country who feel very disenfranchised now, who are angry, who are hurting, and we don't know how they will respond. There are lots of predictions, some very dark predictions about how this world will be, how this country will be over the coming months and years. We don't know what the storms will be, but we need to be strong and resilient and show up. We have to be relevant. I see us building more connected community beyond our walls. That would be relevant. And this is part of our vision to really build connection and community beyond our walls. We need an endeavor that we share, in which all can contribute, that inspires us and compels us to action, that builds on our unique gifts of radical welcome and a commitment to green living, commitment to mitigating climate change. So who do we need to partner with? We have started that work with the Gwinnett Interfaith Alliance and the Gwinnett Remembrance Coalition. A little bit of work with the NAACP, but I'm not sure they really know we're here yet. We're working on it. We need to build those partnerships in the communities of color and the communities of indigenous peoples. We need to build relationships with the people who are most disenfranchised in our country. There are a lot of things we can't do, too. We can't change the national or global situation right now. We do need to focus on what we can do to be relevant within the range of our congregation. We have people here in several counties, Gwinnett County being our hub where we're located. What can we do? We can write letters, we can show up, we can offer support, we can alleviate suffering in so many ways. So this is a conversation for us to have about what will we be known by in this county? How will people know us? They will say, that's the congregation that does that. And what is that? It is not for me to say, it is for us to discern together what is the work that needs this congregation to do it. What if, just imagine, what if we had the courage, the will, the creativity, and the resources to change the things we can? What if? Let's sing together our hymn, This Is My Song, which reminds us that we are all connected around this globe and we all share love for our country. This song written by Lloyd Stone and Jean Sibelius. Let us sing together.
This is my song, O God of all the nations.
Let us enter into a time of prayer now with this prayer written by Rabbi Michael Lerner, a prayer before going to vote, adapted for post-election by the Reverend Suzelle Lynch. Spirit of life and love, we are grateful, as our ancestors were grateful, that your energy has inspired human beings to create democratic institutions that have given us the wonderful opportunity to participate in shaping our world. We know that the outcome of this election has consequences for all 6 billion people on the planet. Thus, we voted in a way that is sensitive to the needs of the people of the planet as best we could. We recognize and affirm the unity of all being and the interconnectedness and mutual interdependence of all people with each other and with the well-being of the planet itself. Thus, we voted with respect for this unity and interdependence as best we could. We know that the prophets and sages of old brought the message that our highest task on earth is to bring more love and kindness, generosity and sanctity into the world, and that to do so, we must vigorously pursue a world of justice and peace and avoid violence and hurting others directly or indirectly. Thus, we voted with these ends in our minds and hearts as best as we could. Spirit of life and love, please give strength to those for whom we voted. If they were elected, let them actually contribute to achieving a world of greater peace, justice, and love. If they were not elected, let our votes for them be one of the factors that contributes to empowering them to play a positive role in continuing the struggle for peace, justice, and love. And give us the wisdom to understand those who voted differently from the way that we did. We know that most people on this planet share the desire for a world of peace, justice, loving kindness, and caring. So it's hard to understand why they don't support the candidates who seem to represent those values. Please give us the wisdom to understand. And let that understanding empower us to be more compassionate in the way that we think and talk about those with whom we disagree, and more intelligent in finding ways to reach them and to speak to their goodness. Help us commit ourselves to seeing the good in all others, and let that understanding give us even greater energy to fight for the causes of social justice and peace. We honor these and the longings of our own hearts now as we continue for a moment in silence. Spirit of life and love, let us be witnesses to a dramatic surge of the world's energies toward love, justice, peace, nonviolence, spiritual awakening, and ecological sanity. In our lifetimes, may it be so. Amen. Shalom. Salam.
We respond with the song, I Know This Rose Will Open, by Mary Gregolia. Our congregation is committed to creating a more compassionate world, and to this end, each quarter we split our plate collection with an organization nominated by members of the congregation and selected by our Give Away the Plate committee. More nominations are needed. Our fourth quarter plate recipient is New Life Technology Group. Located in Alpharetta, Georgia, the mission of the New Life Technology Group is to help our planet by reducing e-waste and support our community through their Computers for Kids program. They do this by recycling, refurbishing, and redistributing electronic waste. They work with businesses, schools, faith communities, nonprofits, and neighborhoods to help keep electronics out of landfills and donate them back to the community. Through the power of our donations, they are able to transform our community and the world around us towards a cleaner, greener, and more hopeful future. Our plate contributions also support the shared ministry of this congregation, so I ask that you please give generously to support the work of this important ministry in our wider community, as well as the vision and mission of our congregation. As we listen to a recording of our pianist Brian Bishop playing Minuet in D minor by J.S. Bach, you will see on the screen ways to contribute to our offering via PayPal, Venmo, or by mailing a check payable to UUCG to the address shown. And I would just add that Venmo doesn't cost us anything. We do pay a little fee to PayPal. So if you're intrigued about that and want to learn how to use Venmo, let me know. If you are worshiping with us for the first time, your presence here today is a generous gift to this community. You may choose to let the plate pass. The offering will now be most gratefully received. May the generous gifts received this week move us towards realizing our vision of a more connected and compassionate world. I have so much gratitude for all that it took to create today's service. I'm grateful to Bob for co-creating the service with me, to Brian for laying down the tracks for our virtual choir, Michael for putting it together, all the choir members who participated, and all those who maybe will be participating in the future as we hope to create more of these virtual choir pieces now that we have the technology and we broke through how to do it. Grateful for all who took part in our democratic process this season. Chuck Powell for his leadership, for all who did poll watching, poll observing, poll working, making calls, writing postcards, sending texts. So many people did so much to make sure that every voice was heard and every voice was counted. Thank you. Also grateful to Christiana McQuain for managing our Zoom room, and Russ Taddeo for running video and sound. And grateful for each of you who are here today. Thank you for being here. Now is the time for our call to connection. It is so important to stay connected during this time, and I know that it can be hard, and I know we can be tired of Zoom, but please, please make the effort to stay connected. If you are new to our congregation, you can text this word welcoming to that phone number on the screen, and you will receive a few texts and emails for a few weeks to guide you in connecting, giving you a little more information about who we are, what we do. You can also get information from our weekly e-news, and you can subscribe to that by sending an email to our administrator at info@uucg.org to get on our list. And also check out our website, And if there's an activity you want to take part in, or you just want to see what kinds of activities we have, select the Register for Events button on our website. It's on the home page, about mid-center of the page. And also we have our Facebook public page, and we have a Facebook private group. And we're now getting out there on Instagram, so look for us there too. If you're new to our community and you want to learn more about our congregation and about Unitarian Universalism, please join us next Sunday after the service for our UU 101 visitor orientation. And if you've been coming for some time and you've been to UU 101 already, join me for the UU 102 Pastor Membership Program, also at 12:30. It is really helpful to register for these programs, so please go to our website and look for that link on the middle of our homepage and sign up for this program so that we know you're coming. We have our resources ready. That's very much appreciated. Thank you. And the links for these programs are on our calendar on our website. One way that you can be of service and help to alleviate suffering is to donate platelets. A member of our congregation is using 4 to 5 bags of platelets every day as he battles leukemia and some other health issues. So we need to help keep that bank of platelets available. So please give as often as you're able. It's kind of a high bar to be able to donate. So if you are eligible to donate, please do. It really makes a difference. We are starting a program called Transgender Inclusion in Congregations. This is a very important part of our process to become even more radically welcoming, increase our knowledge and understanding of gender identity, and sexuality, and it's a great course. So it's a self-paced online course. We ask that you register by Friday. We want to start on November 15th. All who register will be contacted with a code in order to access the materials, and then you'll be invited into a small group of probably like 5 or 6 people, because the smaller the group, the better, the deeper the conversation can go as you process what you're learning. And those groups will meet once a month, December, January, and February. So please register today to do this. I would love to see maybe 30 people from the congregation signed up. We have 11 right now, so please register. Again, it's self-paced. And having done it, and Christiana having done it, I read most of the material, I watched most of the videos, but I got enough to learn so much that I didn't know. There are surprising things that I didn't know. So please join. Our elementary religious exploration class typically meets at 12:30 on Zoom, except on second Sundays. So today the registered families have received materials for a self-led program at home that they can do during the week. And next week we'll meet again at 12:30 on Zoom. If you have elementary school age children and have not yet registered for our religious exploration program, please consider doing so. All of our programs for children require registration in order to gain access as a measure of security. And you can go to the learning link on our webpage for that information to register for religious exploration. And also we have religious exploration for adults, and this month we are engaging in a program called A Call to Faith in Turbulent Times. And appropriate as a follow-up from this service, next Sunday's theme of the conversation is A Call to Imagination, and Cherie Bailey will be leading that conversation. This Wednesday at 10 o'clock, I will be holding space for exploring spiritual practices. It's a lovely time where we do a little meditating together and then explore some other spiritual practices. So please join me at 10 o'clock on Wednesday. Thank you. And virtual happy hour continues. I understand there was a great book discussion and happy hour conversation last week, so let's keep it going. And we'll have just the happy hour from 6 to 8 this Thursday, and then we'll be announcing the next book group discussion and the date for that soon. Check your e-news and our newsletter and our calendar on our website to look for more ways to connect virtually. And we may start offering some ways that we can gather outside for activities safely. So look for those possibilities to emerge. The Covenant Choir checks in every Tuesday, and that's where we're planning our virtual choir selection. So please join us. If you've been stepping back from choir, please step back in. Belief Exploration meets today at 12:30. Exploring Tarot with Sherry is at a different time today, so please make note of that. It's at 6 o'clock tonight instead of 4. So 6 o'clock, Exploring Tarot with Sherry. Yarns from the Heart is on the first and third Wednesdays, and and I should have taken off that Sylvan Sanctuary ritual because that was last night, and I hope it went really well. And now let us rise in spirit as we say together the words we say as we extinguish our chalice, followed by our closing song, When the Spirit Says Do, an African American spiritual from the civil rights period. Let it remind us we have much we can do. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Beloveds, we close with these words from Reverend Sean Parker Denison, called Always Calling. I have been called countless times just this morning, just this moment. This breath that I am holding for one extra heartbeat is calling. This tiny speck of dust floating above me in the light is calling. This child with sticky hands that wants me to look is calling. This task, this thought, this plan that crowds my overcrowded mind is calling. This day, rushing through hours toward dishes and chores before bed, is calling. This dream of before you died and longing for more time is calling. This deeper sleep, dreamless, empty time of repair and healing is calling. This joy and that sorrow, the tear that mingles both with compassion is calling. This place and this whole world full of suffering and beauty are always calling. May we go forth with renewed commitment to alleviate suffering, build bridges, and nurture community. Be well, be safe, and see you next week.